name's Vanessa Flores, and I'm the owner of Colors of Austin Counseling here in Austin, Texas. We are a group therapy practice that offers mental health services to the community. And I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about boundary setting. I know that there's probably a lot of information out there about boundary setting with yourself, with work, with friends, with family. We are in a time of collective grief and trauma. Our worlds have been turned upside down, and I know that so many of us are grieving, and some of us maybe have been avoiding, some of us maybe fall somewhere in between. Um, but what I do know is that we're all exactly where we need to be, and I want to provide you with some resources that can help support you during this time to get what you need for yourself. And so, plain and simple, if you follow Dr. Brene Brown's work, she talks about boundaries. And boundaries are what's okay and what's not okay. So, what am I okay with? What am I not okay with? I think when I think about boundaries, I think about when I'm saying no to something, what am I saying yes to? So for me, boundaries are really about what am I saying yes to for myself? Um, what helps me live the life that I want to live and supports my healing and my self care and my needs. And boundaries can be really difficult. There are a lot of things that get in the way of that. There are a lot of people who don't receive boundaries well, especially family and friends. And so we have to be really courageous in this act of setting boundaries, and we also have to be really vulnerable. And those are two really difficult things. But what comes from that is that the overwhelming possibility of saying yes to yourself. And so setting boundaries is, I think that what that looks like is getting clear with yourself. What am I okay with? What am I not okay with? And I think the best way to do that is to figure out what your values are. What is it that you believe in for yourself in your life that guides the way that you want to show up in the world? So for me, I know that family is one of my values. I know that my integrity for my business is one of my values, and I know that rest is a value of mine. And so that helps me understand what are the boundaries that I need to put in place to support my values. So that's the first thing. The second thing is integrity. So Brene talks about integrity being choosing courage over comfort, choosing what is right over what is fun, fast, and easy, and choosing to practice our values rather than simply profess them. And I don't know how many times you've been in a situation where you're like, man, I really value my rest. That's a value that I hold, that's something I believe in, but then you say yes to some work project or some, you know, obligation with friends or some, sitting on the phone with a friend for an hour listening to what's going on with them, which I think is you being a good friend and being really supportive, but that also is counterintuitive to what you're trying to accomplish for yourself, which is I need time for me to be able to re-energize myself so that I can show up again the next day. And so integrity really pushes us to think about what is the courageous thing. The courageous thing is to say, I really want to talk to you and be there for you and support you. And right now I'm feeling really drained. Can we find another time to connect? That can be really hard for fear of disappointing others, fear of not meeting someone else's needs, fear of being a bad friend. And I think those are all the negative thought loops that can go on in our brain that are not necessarily true, right? Our brain is not that smart, actually. Our brain doesn't know how to distinguish what's truth and what's not true. We have to do that ourselves. And so we tend to buy into those negative thought patterns that tell us that we're not good enough when we tell it to think that. But the reality is that that's not true. That's a false narrative. So standing in your integrity is crucial to setting boundaries. And the last thing is generosity, right? Working from assumptions and intentions of compassion and grace. I am doing the very best I can right now in this moment. And so is everyone else. I want to challenge you to just sit with that. Is everyone doing the best that they can with what they have right now in this moment, including myself? The answer is yes. And I know that's hard to believe considering everything that's going on. But I just really want to challenge you that when we can extend generosity to ourselves and to others, it puts us in a position to lead with compassion and curiosity rather than defensiveness and anger. There is space and room for rage and anger and sadness and grief and all of those emotions. There is space for that, and you should take up space to process those things. And at the same time, I think it's important to extend generosity in that processing. So I hope that that's helpful. I hope that you take some space for yourself to sit down with your values and really think about what are the things that ground me in my life and how can I use that to support me in setting boundaries with the world that I live in and with the space that I'm in and with the people that I love and want to engage with. But I also need to be mindful of my own needs. So thank you so much for listening.